I feel I've been ready for a while now to take the next step in my development and play at the NHL level. Hopefully, opportunity comes soon.
Igor Shesterkin gets his first nod in the NHL.
Listen, everybody's been talking about Igor for a long time, and for good reason. And he's earned the accolades, and he earned this opportunity.
I want to debut in NHL, become primary goalie of the team, and win Stanley Cup.
Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today I'm going to be looking at Igor Shesterkin and why 13 goaltenders were taken before him in the 2014 NHL Draft. Now, it's pretty hard to believe that 117 players, 13 goaltenders as well, were taken before Igor in the 2014 draft. But Shesterkin right now, as it stands, is one of the brightest young goaltenders in the NHL and is a former #1 goalie prospect across the entire league. Now living up to that hype and playing great for New York in 12 games, getting a .932 save percentage. So I think it's pretty safe to say that he is ready for the NHL level. But why were 13 goaltenders taken ahead of him in the 2014 draft? What was Shesty's story back then, and where are the 13 goaltenders right now in 2020? Watch till the end for all the picks and my opinions, and of course hit that subscribe button if you're new. Now, obviously with hindsight, we can tell that Shesterkin was a pretty good pick for the 4th round, but there were 21 goaltenders selected in 2014, 13 above Igor, but the stats that he put up in 2014 were still very solid and definitely deserved to be higher than he was drafted. Back in 2014, he was able to play 9 KHL games, getting a .903 save percentage, which for a goaltender age 18/19 is very solid to even play those amount of games, and the MHL was able to get a .947 save percentage in 23 games. As Shestyorkin's career progressed, though, he just got better and better. He only played 6 KHL games the next year, but got a .917 save percentage, and then the next year only played 7 KHL games, got a .912, but then the next year in 2017 is where it really all exploded. He just came out of nowhere, playing 39 games for St. Petersburg with a .937 save percentage and a .940 save percentage in the playoffs. And at that point, Shestyorkin was on the big scene. Now, after 2017, Shestyorkin's career would continue to progress. He would get a .933 save percentage in 28 games in 2018, and then would get a .953 save percentage in 28 games in 2019. And of course, this season is where he went over to North America with the AHL for the Hartford Wolfpack. In 25 games, got a 1.90 goals against average and a .934 save percentage. And then obviously, throughout the NHL so far, the rest is history. Now, it is obvious that Shestyorkin should have been drafted higher, but there were some other great goaltenders that put up solid stats in their draft year, some that lived up to that potential, and some that didn't. And we're going to start with the first goaltender who was drafted before Igor Shesterkin, just 3 picks earlier by the Dallas Stars, that being Brent Moran. Yeah, if you haven't heard of him, I don't blame you, because he has kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth. The Stars had a chance at Igor and just bluffed it. Now, back in 2014, he played it with the Niagara Ice Dogs in the OHL, 40 games played in an .891 save percentage, but also had a .921 save percentage in the playoffs. And Moran had some solid potential, but right now, after spending a few years in U Sports after the OHL career, right now is playing with Norway and only played 7 games this season. Now, surprisingly, it doesn't get too much better. With the 111th overall pick, the Edmonton Oilers selected Zach Nagelvoort. Zach Nagelvoort. Now, Nagelvoort was an overager at age 20 in the 2014 draft, and that season he was able to put a .929 save percentage together in 24 games for the University of Michigan, and back then looked pretty good. But since then, his career fell off a cliff, just not playing all that great for the next few years, and last time playing in the ECHL for the Missouri Mavericks. Since that 2017 season, he has retired from hockey and has disappeared from the face of the earth. Now, this next pick is a lot more justifiable, and 109th overall, the Minnesota Wild, with the 3rd goalie picked before Igor Shesterkin, picked Capo Kakoton. Now, Capo Kakoton is one of the better goaltenders throughout these 13 goaltender list and could be a potential starter for the Minnesota Wild. In 34 games in the AHL this year, has gotten a .927 save percentage, and in 5 NHL games with Minnesota, has gotten a .913 save percentage. Not bad whatsoever, and even though he's not Igor Shesterkin, he can still be pretty good, and I think the starter potential is there for Minnesota. He's been a guy that's been slowly working his way up, but I think is one of the best young Finnish goaltenders, and for Minnesota, I think can fill that starter role as soon as next season, potentially. So for Minnesota, I'm not going to blame that one. That's a pretty solid pick. But the next one is a lot more unfortunate. Now going to the 95th overall pick and the 4th goaltender picked before Igor Shesterkin, the New York Islanders selected Elias Soderstrom. Now, at one point, Soderstrom was one of the top goalie prospects in the entire league. Back in 2017, he put up a .943 save percentage in 22 games, but then the next year in 2018 had an .894 in 14 games, and then the next season in 2019 played 0 games of hockey. He was supposed to play in the AHL, but due to injury, was not able to. And so far this season, has only played 4 hockey games in the ECHL, getting an .870 save percentage. From a guy who had top-tier talent in Sweden, now with injuries, his NHL career is looking pretty invisible. Now going to the 5th goaltender who was taken before Igor Shesterkin, and another kind of similar situation to Elias Soderstrom, just before him actually with the 94th overall pick, the St. Louis Blues selected Ville Husso. Now once upon a time, Husso was one of the most consistent and best goaltending prospects in the NHL. Back in his draft year in 2014, had a .923 save percentage in 41 games, and then just 2 years later in 2016 had a .927 save percentage in 39 league games, then went to the AHL, .920 save percentage in 22 games, the next year .922 save percentage in 38 games, but after that it kind of all slipped for him. In 27 games last year in 2019, had an .871 save percentage. He got it back a little bit this year with a .909, but he's 25 years old, pretty much in the peak of his play, and is not even playing all that great in the AHL. It seems like maybe he might be a backup option potentially for St. Louis, but at this point, nothing more. But now going on to the 3 goaltenders who were selected in the 3rd round, and the 6th goaltender selected ahead of Shestyorkin. At number 78, the New York Islanders selected Elia Sorokin. Now Sorokin is still one of the best goaltending prospects in the entire NHL. So far 40 KHL games this year, has a .935 save percentage, just making it look easy. And I think him and Shestyorkin have been battling it out for the best goalie prospect for a very long time. Although there is some concerns if he will carry over to North America, the point still stands. He is one of the best goaltenders outside of the NHL, and if he were to go to the New York Islanders, I think would be very, very good. But now going on to the 7th goaltender taken before Igor, and with the 76th overall pick, the Columbus Blue Jackets selected Elias Soderstrom. Now Soderstrom is one of the best goaltenders to come through these 13 goaltender lists, and honestly is looking very, very good for a 3rd round pick. Has been consistent throughout his NLA days, and back in 2014 had a .924 save percentage in 22 games in Switzerland. Not bad whatsoever. This year has finally came over to North America, and for the Columbus Blue Jackets, thankfully so. In 33 games played, has a .923 save percentage. So yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say that 3rd round pick is looking pretty good for them. Now going on to the final 3rd round pick, and the 8th player selected before Shestyorkin, a player not as good as Elias Soderstrom, but still pretty solid. I have Yonis Johansson of the Buffalo Sabres. Now 61st overall pick, he's a guy that has been pretty much an AHL regular for the past couple of years, but so far in 22 games with Rochester has a .921 save percentage, not bad whatsoever. Also played 6 games with Buffalo this season, had an .894 save percentage. He's a guy though that I think at most is a backup in the NHL. Obviously not as good as Elias Soderstrom or Igor Shesterkin, but not as bad as some of the other picks. Now to really just hammer down the point that goaltenders are wacky and crazy, we now go to the 59th overall pick. The New York Rangers select Brandon Halverson. Yeah, if you haven't heard of him, I don't blame you. The New York Rangers selected a goaltender before they selected Igor Shesterkin, and it's not looking all too great for them, but they do have Igor Shesterkin, so I think they'll take that as a pretty good consolation prize. Halverson was a guy that was playing in the OHL back in 2014, had had pretty okay stats. Right now is pretty much just an ECHL, AHL switch-up guy. I don't think he has much of a potential for the NHL at this point, but as a 24-year-old goaltender is okay. Right now, Arizona's system is nowhere to be seen for New York, but again, they have Igor Shesterkin, so I think they'll definitely take that. Now, 20 picks before even the Brendan Halverson pick, the Washington Capitals, 39th overall, selected Vitek Vanecek. Now, Vanecek is one of the more interesting goalie prospects in the league. Still at age 24, could be a solid NHL goalie. In 31 AHL games, has a .917 save percentage, but he's a guy that, although he's not as good as Shestyorkin, I think can still be pretty solid, though at this point, he's not going to overtake a guy like Elias Samsonov on the Caps. Let's say Brandon Holtby were to leave in free agency, Vanecek would serve as a pretty solid backup, which I think for the time being is exactly what he is. But now going on to my 11th goaltender selected before Igor Shesterkin, and just a couple of picks earlier in the Vanecek, the Carolina Hurricanes selected Alex Nadella. Now, Nadella had all the talent and all the potential in the world, but just so far has not been able to put that into the NHL level. So far in 29 NHL games, has a .906 save percentage, and in 4 contests for the Hurricanes, has an .887 save percentage. Not all that great so far. And even though Nadella has all the talent, and I'm not going to give up on him yet, he is no Igor Shesterkin, and I think he's proved that in the last couple of seasons. And now with that, we can move on to the 12th goaltender pick for Igor Shesterkin, and the second goaltender picked in the 2014 NHL draft. The Vancouver Canucks at 36th overall select Thatcher Demko. Now, in terms of goalies that were selected ahead of Igor Shesterkin in terms of potential and likelihood of being a starter, Demko is one of the better picks on this list and is starting to fulfill that potential. In 27 NHL games this year, has gotten a .905 save percentage. Not amazing numbers, but there's been some big flashes of serious talent, and Demko has also been getting steadily better and better as the season goes on. But he's a guy that with the second overall pick I would take once again, and again is looking like a starter for Vancouver, which even though they don't have Igor Shesterkin, is still a pretty solid ad for them. And now going on to the 13th goaltender selected before Igor Shesterkin, and the first goaltender selected in the 2014 draft. Spoiler alert, it did not work out as well as Shesterkin or Thatcher Demko or a guy like Elvis Merzlikins. In fact, it was Mason McDonald by the Calgary Flames. Now, back in 2014, McDonald was a pretty solid NHL prospect, but didn't even have the greatest draft year, especially if you exclude the World Juniors. The only reason he was drafted that high, I think, was the World Juniors and his performance there with Team Canada. In the U18 World Juniors, he was able to put up a .930 save percentage in 6 games, but in the QMJHL, and a .907 save percentage. Just pretty solid. But for McDonald, he was drafted ahead of so many other guys. Right now is an ECHL regular, not even with the Flames organization anymore. Besides that, he's now Colorado, and so far in 17 ECHL games has an .890 save percentage. So I think it's pretty fair to say that Calgary did not do all too well with that pick. Now, in terms of the potentials of a lot of these guys picked before Igor, I was actually pretty impressed with some of the picks. Again, you got guys like Elia Sorokin, Elvis Merzlikins, very solid goaltenders, and guys like Thatcher Demko too. But in terms of where he was picked and how much potential he brings, there was no value pick that was better than Igor Shesterkin in that 2014 draft, and he's proving that so far in the NHL this year. And I think one of the main reasons why he was passed up so much in 2014 was because he played in Russia, but not just because he played in Russia, but the leagues he ended up playing in. Even though he did play 9 KHL games, he played most of his games in the MHL. And that was the same situation as Nikita Kucherov, who played some KHL games, but for the most part was in the MHL, and back then, it was just not scouted enough. That MHL league was overlooked tons of different times, and it produced some solid NHL talent, like Kucherov and now Shestyorkin. It's a lot more of a different story now, with a lot more MHL players getting a lot more attention, and right now Shestyorkin is looking like one of the best young goaltenders across the entire National Hockey League. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Put a lot of hard work into this video, so hopefully you guys were entertained. Of course, with this one, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't, ring that notification bell if you haven't as well. Make sure you comment down below your thoughts on Igor Shesterkin and the 13 goaltenders drafted before him. And of course, share this video with your friends. Get the word out there to anyone you know about the Igor Hype Train, boys. And also click on on this card right here to watch all of my 2021 NHL draft content right in one place. My name is Nathan, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.